Okay? So, let's go back to this most ridiculous, weird Christian group or sect that you know of. How would you like to be classified by them? Yet the entire Western world has classified all of Islam, the third largest religion in the world, by these radical jihadists, when they're not even using the term jihad in the way that the Quran says that they have to use it. The Quran absolutely forbids violence. The only way, if you are a true Muslim, that you can be violent toward another person is if they attack you in the holy places. And of course that's what the jihadists are saying. The Crusaders came in, attacked us in our own homes, in our own place, in our holiest shrines, and so we're justified in doing what we're doing. But we as a Western world have classified the majority of Muslims by one of these radical sects. And while we wouldn't appreciate everyone classifying us as Christians based on snake handlers or whatever the case may be, neither do the middle of the road, the average Muslim people appreciate being classified by the radical Islamists. They are a very, very small portion, yet they're the ones that the news media has scattered all over the earth as being representative of the Muslim world. And most Muslim peoples that I know, and I know a lot of Turkish people, a lot of Middle Easterners, Moroccans, are just as shocked and appalled and disgusted by what these suicide bombers are doing and what's going on with the Taliban and the fighting in Afghanistan, Pakistan, as we are when we see those kinds of things going on. So the recitation began. At some point in time, somewhere about 18 years in or so, Muhammad realized that some of the verses did not jihad with biblical texts, that is Hebrew Bible texts, New Testament texts, and the rest of what he had recited in the Quran. He came to the conclusion that Iblis, or Satan, had come to him and deceived him. And so there were a number of verses that were expunged. And what we have now, if you get any kind of a translation of the Quran, what you have is what's called a recension text. And that's just a big word for, they took all of the majority texts, they combined them all together, and they took the majority reading. Well, you say, that's a stupid way of doing it, but here I'll let you in on a little secret. Any Greek translation that you get for the New Testament, any Hebrew Chaldee translation you get for the Old Testament is a recension text. They combined all the texts together and took the majority readings. So what I'm trying to get you to see is, before you start condemning the Quran as being a book that's spurious or not useful or not inspired or anything like that, the very kinds of arguments that you're going to try to use against them are the very kinds of arguments that non-Christians, atheists and unbelievers would use against the Bible. Because it's basically the same kind of thing. So it boils down to two things. You either believe that Muhammad received a vision from God or you don't. One or the other. And there are good reasons why you should or should not believe it. But you have to understand where it came from. Name some of the major religions of the world for me.
Hinduism.
Hinduism.
Christianity.
What's another one?
Muslim.
Muslims, yeah. Islam. They prefer to be called Islam.
Christianity.
Christianity.
Judaism.
Judaism. Judaism is classed in with Christianity as the Judeo-Christian tradition.
Buddhism.
Yeah. Buddhism is the other one. Buddhism is out of Hinduism.
Also pantheism. Pantheism.
Yeah, pantheism is, that's in your Shinto religion. In Hinduism, to some extent, you know, everything's got a soul.
I know it's big in Africa.
Yeah.
So.
You're right, it is. It's real big. 3 major religions in the world. Which three are you gonna pick?
Islam,
Christianity.
Islam, Christianity, or two?
Hindu.
Buddhism is the third.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Because China.
because of China and because of India. Buddhism is a sect of, Buddhism is the Christianity of Hinduism. They're considered a heretical sect of Hinduism.
To just focus on Buddha.
Yeah, focus on the Buddha, who, by the way, any one of you could be a Buddha. You know that, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Buddha is a man. Buddha is a person. It's not a god. The god, the over-god of Hinduism and Buddhism is Shiva.
Isn't it more like a philosophy or religion?
Yeah. Yeah, it's more about how to live life. We can't know about God because He's not here. So how are you going to live? That's what Buddhism is all about. It's about contemplation, understanding how to get along with other people. I'm saying all that because Islam takes that same approach. God is unknowable. You can't see Him, you can't know Him unless He reveals Himself to you. Now, He's revealed Himself through the Hebrew Scripture, Christian Scripture, and in Islam now through Muhammad. And remember, they're looking at you and they're feeling pity for you as a Christian by saying, you know, you're a really good person and you're on the right track if you can just figure out how to believe in Muhammad. Just like those poor Jews are stuck back there and can't believe in Jesus. Even we know that Jesus is a prophet. So that's the attitude that they're looking at. Of the major religions, I'm going to name some famous people. Buddha is one. Siddhartha. Okay. Confucius. Jesus of Nazareth. Socrates and Plato. What do these people all have in common?
And followers.
Do what?
And followers.
Oh, big time. And that's an important idea.
Weren't they all put in a circumstance where they had to face an extreme trial or something like that?
Yeah.
Buddha threw everything he had away or something like that.
Yeah. He was sheltered for the first several years of his life, and then he went out and found the four signs and all that. Didn't know about the big world. Confucius maybe is the odd man out on that idea. Of the most influential people in the world, would you disagree that Confucius, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, they're all the most influential men who have ever lived on earth in human society? Socrates, Plato. Yeah? None of them ever wrote a single word. Their followers wrote it down after the fact. Every single one of them. Muhammad was illiterate. He had no education. He couldn't write. He couldn't read. They took a biblical text, write this on your hearts. It should be written on your hearts. That's mentioned 4 times in the New Testament. And that's exactly what they did. They memorized the Quran, the recitations. And there were people in Islam, in Muhammad's groups, that were tasked with nothing but memorizing the Quran. And it's very special to them. The human life is sacred to them. That's an important idea. File that away in your memory banks. Human life is sacred. First of all, because we live for eternity. There's no dying. You pass out of this life, but you're going to go to another one. And it's either going to be a place of damnation, or it's going to be a place of rest and peace and the 70 Vestal Virgins and all that good stuff. But again, they're using the language of richness, of power, of majesty. And everybody knows that it's figurative and that it's falling way short. But Muhammad is describing heaven in the same way that John is describing heaven when he says it's streets of gold and you've got all these precious stones and stuff.